In the year 2000, China's coastal cities were sprinting into a new century. Places like Shanghai were already dominated by towering skylines, flush with foreign capital and a rapidly expanding middle class. But look 600 miles inland, and that economic boom vanishes. In the mountains of Sichuan, the village of Sichuan was completely cut off by harsh geography. There were no paved roads, electricity was unreliable, and the local economy ran entirely on subsistence farming. When Lin Xiaomei was born here that same year, her father looked at her and sighed. She was his third daughter in a society and a family where only a son guaranteed economic security. A girl was viewed as a liability, another mouth to feed until she was eventually married off. That extreme geographic isolation carried heavy consequences. When Xiaomei was 3, her mother gave birth to a fourth daughter. The infant quickly fell ill. But the nearest hospital was a 2-day journey away, and the baby died within months. To be born female in Sichuan in the year 2000 meant facing a rigid set of boundaries. Geography isolated you from the modern economy, and gender dictated that your life belonged to someone else. Your trajectory was largely decided the moment you took your first breath. Xiaomei's first look outside those boundaries came at age 5, peering through the window at the village chief's house at the only television in town. She watched images of glowing urban streets, realizing for the first time that a completely different world existed out there. A few years later, she spent hours watching a traveling merchant pitch his wares in her village. When she asked him how he convinced people to buy, he gave her a basic lesson in economics. Figure out what people desire and show them how your product fulfills it. Then, in 2008, the Sichuan earthquake shattered the region. Sitting outside her damaged home, looking at the destruction, 8-year-old Xiaomei realized how fragile life truly was. Safety was an illusion. The following year, she watched her 16-year-old sister accept an arranged marriage, silently surrendering her own ambitions to tradition. Xiaomei decided right then that waiting for her circumstances to improve was a guaranteed way to fail. She understood that the system she was born into would never willingly hand her an opportunity. If she wanted to survive, she would have to actively break her way out. Xiaomei poured every ounce of her energy into her education. By her final year of middle school, her test scores earned a full scholarship to an elite high school in Chengdu. Arriving in the provincial capital was a shock. For the first time, she was surrounded by neon-lit shopping districts and massive commercial wealth that sat in stark contrast to her dirt floor upbringing. Inside the classroom, the reality of her new environment set in. Her peers were the children of urban business owners, armed with modern phones and deep self-assurance. Almost immediately, she was treated as an outsider. Her classmates targeted the obvious markers of her poverty. Her thick rural accent drew quiet laughs, and her faded, hand-me-down clothes stood out in a sea of new uniforms. Xiaomei realized that physical proximity to wealth provided no guarantee of social acceptance. The urban gatekeepers in Chengdu still dismissed her as an outsider, reinforcing a barrier that was invisible but absolute. But Xiaomei found a different kind of access point inside the school's computer lab. Here, sitting in front of a heavy desktop monitor, the traditional social hierarchies faded away. She began studying digital marketplaces like Taobao. After reading a biography of Jack Ma, a man who built a massive e-commerce empire despite early failures, her perspective shifted completely. She realized the internet is entirely blind to your background. A digital storefront cannot hear a rural accent, and it doesn't care if you're wearing hand-me-down shoes. She put her intelligence to work immediately, offering weekend tutoring sessions to her wealthier classmates. Within 6 months, she had built a steady stream of income, keeping a little for herself and mailing the rest back to her mother in the village. Then a winning entry in a school business competition earned her a weekend job with a local e-commerce merchant named Mr. Liu. She mastered the mechanics of digital trade, from product listings to managing queries to digital payments and physical fulfillment. She also learned to take customer feedback and loop it directly back into product development. By the end of high school, Xiaomei had successfully reverse-engineered the entire machine of modern e-commerce. She knew exactly how to build a digital business. She just lacked the money to start one. That barrier became a crisis in 2015. Her father suffered a severe lung injury, and the resulting medical bills wiped out the family's meager savings. Xiao Mei needed to launch her business right away to keep them afloat. Her goal was to sell the traditional embroidery crafted by the women in her village. But securing raw materials and marketing requires money, and she had a startup capital of zero. She turned to her mentor, Mr. Liu, who gave her a critical piece of advice. In a crowded digital space, money matters far less than narrative. Consumers purchase the core story attached to an object. So Xiao Mei took her rural identity, the exact thing she had been mocked for in Chengdu, and made it her core marketing asset. She partnered with her sister, Hua, to produce the embroidery directly in the village. In a market flooded with identical factory goods, a genuine, handcrafted item carried immense value. Her authenticity was a commodity she could sell. She opened an online store called Stories of Shuijiakun. Her sister managed the physical production in the mountains, while Xiao Mei handled the digital storefront and customer relations from the city. Beside every listing, she avoided generic descriptions. Instead, she wrote out the unvarnished reality of the women who made the fabric, pairing the intricate embroidery with the daily struggles of life in a poor agricultural village. It started slow, but by the second week, a buyer in Shanghai purchased a handkerchief. Then came 2 more orders, then 5, then 10. Her zero capital model was working. The revenue stabilized her family's finances. As the Tackages left the village, her bedridden father finally looked at her and admitted the truth. He had been completely wrong to devalue his daughters. Xiao Mei established an entirely new economic infrastructure by creating a permanent, lasting link between rural agricultural creators and urban capital. Her immense success provided a pathway for her community to reach the wealth of the coast without leaving the mountains. By weaponizing technology to bypass geographic barriers, Xiao Mei dismantled the constraints that once dictated her future. She moved beyond the role society had assigned her, creating a model that turned rural isolation into a competitive advantage.